Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Model with Mel. Today we are working on a 3-story luxury high-end residential home. Emily has designed the floor plan for us, and I am modeling and bringing it to life in Revit, designing the exterior with you all. We are live streaming to YouTube, and I am going to be propping up my phone so that everybody can see my screen while I model. Again, you are going to be looking at my screen through my phone, so if you want a better look, you can go to YouTube, and I'm screen sharing there. So it is better quality, you can see everything that I am clicking on. But today we're going to be going into a continuation of what we worked on last time, which was looking at the floor plans that Emily's laid out for us. And we started to build the exterior, we started to build the foundation and the decks, and adding our basic structural house pieces to the model. Hello, everyone that's joining on Instagram. Welcome. I'm doing really good. How are you? I haven't talked to you in a long time. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to prop up my phone now, and we're going to get started modeling the second and third floor today. I'm super excited because we're going to actually start to see the massing and shape of this structure and this building come together. Alrighty. Alright, so everybody on Instagram is propped up. I'm going to zoom out, hopefully. And we are going to start building on top of what we've started. So let me see if we can bring this a little bit closer. So this is what we are working on from last week. And if we go to the floor plans, these are the CAD floor plans that Emily has sent me, and we are building off of these. So we've got the first floor outlined in the massive structure, the exterior walls, the structural walls. We have the foundation, and we have these deck pieces and flooring in. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to copy this floor plan to my clipboard because it is just an AutoCAD insert. And I'm going to go to the second floor plan. I just have to create it. So this is called top plate. I'm going to call this top of second floor. And I definitely want to rename that to all my corresponding views. Hi, so I am modeling a floor plan. So I have a business partner. Her name is Emily. We do residential design work together, and we are creating a series of stock plans together as well. So she sends me floor plans that she's drafted in CAD, and she only thinks of the floor plans. So she's only designing in 2D, and then she sends it to me, and I bring it together and model it in Revit, and I design the exterior of the house and how it's going to look. So right now we're really just laying out the exterior walls, the foundation walls, all of the core elements of this house. Today we're going to be working on the second floor and the third floor and adding in some of these roofs. And then we'll have like the basic massing of the house done, and then we can really start playing around with the exterior. What are the windows going to look like? What are the materials going to look like? What is the roof going to look like? So all of these different things we're going to start considering once we've laid down the foundational pieces, which are the walls and the roofs. So I will go back in eventually and add in anything that's not grayed right now is the CAD plan that she sent me. So I'll go back in and I will add in all these details in Revit, but right now I just like to get in all the massing. So I've copied this floor plan. We're going to our elevation because we want to create another level. Right now we have our first floor plan, which is our 0. We have a garage slab, which is always lower than your first floor. So I did that -1'6". And then I have a top of second floor, which I'm going to put at 8'6" for now. And if I have to change it after, I totally can. But in order to create the second floor, I'm going to want to create another level. And I'm going to want to call it top of third floor, because we know we're going to have a third floor. And then from there, this is going to be a huge house. Last season on Model with Mel, we did a little bit of a smaller project. It was actually a lot smaller than this one. It was a 1-story, and then we did an attic space but it was not a finished attic space. And we did some cool interior things with it. It was a 7-episode season. Each episode was like an hour long, and the entire series 1 is saved in a playlist on YouTube. If you wanted to go back, you could literally follow along the entire series and build the house with me if that's something that you wanted to do to practice your skills. So this project is probably going to take more than 7 episodes because I do this once a week with you guys live. And once I've really started laying down the foundational pieces of the building, we're going to be able to get into where do the windows go, what do the materials are, because right now my walls just have these basic horizontal siding, and that's super boring. It's not going to stay that way, but we have to start somewhere. So this is where we're starting, and I'm going to just lay out the levels. Again, we're going to have that top of 3rd floor, so I'm just going to do a dimension and see what that is. 8 feet. That's okay for now. Again, if I need to change it, as long as the walls are connected to these levels, it will be good to be able to change everything in one go. And then this top one is going to be called the top plate, and this is what the roof is really going to sit on. Actually, that's a lie. This 3rd level right here is going to be, well, yeah, the 3rd level, if we go to the floor plan, is going to have some roof, and then this portion right here is going to have a separate roof on top. So this is going to be necessary for us. We're just going to have 2 top plate levels, and what a top plate is it's the pieces of wood that a roof structure sits on. It's a main structural piece in your building, and when we start looking at placing the roof, we will get into what that looks like, how it works. I go over all that stuff here sectionally. I'm walking you through like the entire process of it. So this is really like a behind the scenes look of how I work, and when we get to the fun design parts, you guys can put in your input, and that's when it gets really exciting. But I like to just document the whole process because I definitely think somebody could watch the replays of these and follow along and be able to build the house for practice on their own. So now that I have my level set up, I'm going to start on the 2nd floor. I'm going to go to my 2nd floor plan. I'm going to go to Modify tab, and I'm going to hit Paste Align to Current View. So it's going to align my floor plan to where it was before on the 1st floor, and I want to move it over to the 2nd floor plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this over here for a second. I'm going to go over to my properties, and I am going to turn on the 1st floor underlay. So there's an underlay category. I'm going to say 1st floor, and now this portion that has been grayed out and I can't actually touch it is going to pop up for me, which is great. I'm trying to move this section out of my way really quick just by dragging it. So now I'm going to do MV, which is move, and I'm just going to pick a point to align this to. And her exterior walls might not perfectly align with my exterior walls. I did make sure everything was on a whole number so that the foundation could be built on a whole number. That's a really important detail that not a lot of people think about when they are designing. People will just do silly little fractions, and it doesn't really need to be that way. Like, if you can just round up to a whole number, do it. Especially with this being like a new construction project, we want to make it as clean as possible. So I've just aligned that. I know that I'm going to bring these walls up, some of them, because they're the exterior walls. So I'm going to select all of these. I'm holding the control button on my keyboard, and then I'm just going around and literally clicking on those walls. I'm going to change the top constraint to the top of the 3rd floor so that now I have the walls going up to at least this point. Now you can see that in this floor plan, these walls that are now brought up to this level are the Revit walls because they're pochade gray. So that's how I'm really seeing the difference and how I will continue on with the project. So it looks like this wall is also a wall that's continuous, and then there's a wall here that is also continuous. So I'm going to go back to the 1st floor plan, and I'm going to continue this wall all the way up to the 3rd floor as well. And now this is what we're looking at. So the main structural pieces, we can also see that this wall goes all the way up to the second floor plan. And there we go. So I'm not sure what this is that she's drawn in. Some of the times I'm like guessing, oh, I think it's a fireplace. Yeah, it's a fireplace. Obviously she draws these floor plans on her own time, and then she sends them to me, and I model them in Revit. And then usually when I'm done with the plans and the model, she'll look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking, or that's not what I was thinking. Because sometimes her drawings are vaguer than this one is like one of her more detailed ones that she sent me, which is great. We love a lot of detail. But it's not always necessary. She'll send me like basic houses, and I will build those as well. So I decided, if we're going to do it, why not just go live and record and document the process of bringing these 3D houses to life and giving you all the opportunity to not only help design the exterior, but follow along the process and literally possibly follow along as I model during a replay. So this is the second floor plan. That's in place now. So I'm just going to go through and place my third floor plan. So I copied the plans to my clipboard again. And if I go to the third floor, it's blank. I'm going to paste it to the current view. MV, which is moving it out of the way. We're going to turn that underlay on again, but we're going to do for the second floor. And I'm just going to move a corner point over here as well. And now we can see, okay, what are some of the walls that are continuing up. So the third floor is going to be a little bit smaller. This is going to be some higher roofs, it looks like. Not 100% sure what she was thinking for here. It does look like this is going to be a roof with some accessible storage space. These are going to be independent roofs. But this looks like it's probably going to be a storage access space, and then this will be separate roofs on its own. So how I'm going to do this is I'm now going to draw the third floor walls, because if we go to the second floor, we can see that all the exterior walls from the first floor are just going straight up. So we're good there. For the third floor, that's when things start to change. So we can see that we're closing off the space below with some roofs, and we're actually adding in some new exterior walls here. So instead of copying or bringing the wall straight up, I can actually copy. So what I'm going to do is I would copy this wall. Well, I have the base constraint and the base offset set specifically, so I actually won't copy. I will just I'm going to hide the floor plan really quickly, and I'm going to do WA for wall. I have it set to foundation wall, so I'm going to want to switch that to the 2x6 new. I'm also going to turn off my thick lines very quickly. I apologize to everybody on Instagram because it's really hard to see what I'm doing from Instagram. Again, you can see everything crisp. I'm sharing my screen and streaming to YouTube. So I will bring this down here. Okay. So I'm just going to line this wall. It's going to say, oh, it's, you know, in the wall. It's because it's not set correctly yet. So I'm going to select this wall. I'm going to make the base offset 0. So it starts at the third floor. And then I'm going to make the top plate, the height 0, because I want it to stop at the top plate. And if I need to change it after, I can change it via the level markers. My allergies are so bad right now. I just have an intense nose and mouth itch. And so Instagram can't see me, but YouTube gets the pleasure of seeing me. It's so itchy. Alrighty, so we're going to go to the third floor. We're going to look at this wall. Now we have our wall placed. We have the height set up correctly. You know, why isn't this cutting through our wall? So our range offset's good. I'm just wondering why this isn't showing up post shade like it's supposed to. Third floor, top plate. third floor supposed to be? Oh, so the reason it's not showing up with any of the layers I've created, so you'll notice that if we go to the second floor plan, you can see that this wall has like a layer of gyp, and then it's pochade gray for that, the stud layer, and then there's a layer of like finished plywood. So I want to see that, and the reason I can't see that right now on my third floor is because down here there's something called a detail level. It's set to coarse, which means it's not showing like any detail. I always set it to fine, and right away it's going to start showing me all that stuff. So I'm just going to do create similar. Create similar is going to take the properties of the wall and like also the settings. So the base constraint of the wall, the top constraint of the wall, and it's going to do exactly what it says it's going to do, and it's going to create a similar setting to that. So I'm just going to outline her exterior walls, and I'm going to turn off this roof, and I'm going to go back in and make sure that these walls are in fact stacked on top of each other correctly. This one looks like it could use some adjusting, and everything else is basically me drawing it. So I'm going to go in, I keep temporarily hiding the CAD plan below, which is HH, and then I keep turning it back on. So if you see it coming on and off, that's why, because I'm using it as a reference, and then I don't want to accidentally click or select a CAD line. I really want to make sure that I'm selecting the Revit walls. So I will go in and I'm going to just dimension these walls really quick because they are new walls that we've laid down, and I just want to be extra sure that from stud to stud we're on whole numbers, because again, this is a brand new house. There's no reason things should be on weird fractions. So this is gonna be 13.6. This is gonna move over. Half of an inch is okay, where this is aligning to the wall below and this is also aligning to a wall below. I'm going to keep this ½ inch here because they are where I want them to be. It's just like weird fractions that we can avoid. ½ inch is always fine. All right, so we have that, we have this, and now we know that all of those walls are on a good interval, whole numbers, pretty much the ½ inch is a whole, and that's clean. So I'm going to reset temporarily, hide, isolate. It's going to unhide that CAD floor plan. So I know that there's going to be roofs below here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place the roofs, and I'm going to place them on the 3rd floor level, and then we're going to take a section and we're going to have to adjust the height of our roof in section to know exactly where it's sitting, because we are going to have to figure out what the top plate for these roofs are going to be. There will be a second top plate for the roofs that go above this core 3rd floor space. So it's a little bit abstract speaking it out loud, but it should make sense once we get into it. So I'm going to start placing the roofs. Right now I have a 12-inch with asphalt shingle, and that will be fine. I'm going to put that here. And what I'm going to do is I probably should have, again, hidden that floor plan because I want to make sure that this aligns with the outside walls. And then I'm going to do an offset. So I'm just moving, like I'm just clicking on the lines right now and dragging them. Oh, so that wasn't the right spot. I was getting confused, but that's in the right spot. And we know that the roof she's drawn is a hip roof. So I'm going to take, right now all these roof lines have this little triangle, which basically means a slope is associated with it. So I'm going to take away the slope definition for this one, and you'll see that it now starts to give you a roof with 3 slopes dying into the house, which is a hip slope, or a hip roof, sorry. So the slope is pretty high. It's automatically set to 9. I'm going to go in, I'm going to set it to 4. 4 is probably a little too short. I'm going to, hopefully 6 looks good, I think. And I'll go back in and probably change this around, but for now, that seems to be working correctly. I just want to make sure that all of these are changing because sometimes it doesn't. But it did change them all. So I'm literally highlighting it and checking what this slope says, 6/12, which is what I changed it to be in the properties bar over here, and it did change all of those defined slope lines for me. So when I look at this now and I highlight it, I can see that my lines are a little bit steeper than what Emily's originally were. And that's probably because she's chosen a lower pitch. So maybe if I change it to the 4, it will get closer to what she has. So she also is designing in 2D, so it might not even be possible what she's drawn here to match it. Like I'm literally going down to all of these. That's 10, yeah, so going bigger just makes it further and further away. So it's not going to match hers exactly again because she's drawing this thinking in 2D, and we're actually going to go in and make it real. So I am going to leave it at 3. The 3 pitch just looks so squat. I don't think that's appropriate. I'm going to ignore Emily's little pitch, and I am going to put it back to a 6. I just wanted to see what was changing with this angle line versus what she had drawn in CAD. So when I select this, it is highlighting those lines above. It's cutting through this portion because what happens is the floor plan is automatically set to cut at a 4-foot height. If we go down here to view range, it will tell us the cut plane's at 4. So what I might go in and do afterwards is do something called a view plan, a view region, I think it's called. A plan region right here. So it basically creates like a different cut point in one floor plan. So we can cut a little bit higher where the roofs are so that we can see the top of the roof instead of having it be cutting through like this weird point in our roof system. So again, I'm just going to hide her CAD floor plan. I know she's doing all hip roofs, and I'm going to go back in and I'm going to dimension from this stud line, if I can select it, this stud line and this outside edge, because from the stud, which is like the finished wall that's continuous all the way up that we will see and look at in section, from that point we want our offset to be 1 foot. So we don't want to take it from this exterior line. We really want to take everything from the stud line. That's our consistent point of reference in our entire project. Everything is based off that. This is just your outside layer that you add to. There'll be more than this, but I just draw the basic walls. So from that stud layer all the way out, you want your overhang to be 1 foot. And we're going to want that to happen on this side as well. So again, I'm marking that point and this point, and when I click on this line, it'll activate the dimension, and I can just type in the 1 foot mark. And then I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to probably need to do like a little roof here just to connect to these 2 roofs. But we're going to go in and mirror this. So we don't have to start from scratch. I'm going to mirror it on the middle of this wall. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into it. So I believe that this is showing me the outside wall from the wall below. Yeah. So I am going to make this 11.5 because it's accounting for the 1/2 inch below. I hope that makes sense. But that's what's going to happen there. And then I'm not really sure what her vision is over here. I think I'm going to just lay out some roofs and then kind of get a feel for what it looks like in 3D, the massing of it, and then figure out what's going to work best, because it looks like this either has a higher pitch or, you know, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. So I am going to go back in again, hide again that CAD line. I'm going to click on this roof, and I'm just going to hit create similar this time, and I'm going to just draw a brand new footprint. So I selected the box so that I could quickly go in and just draw that point. Again, I'm going to make this 11.5 because it's taking it from the outside face of the wall, and I know I have that 1/2 inch layer built in, so it's going to be 11.5. So from the stud, it will be 1 foot away, which is the reason I'm subtracting that 1/2 inch. So again, here, I'm going to break this wall. There's a couple different ways I'll do roofs. Sometimes I'll just like draw something at first and then go in and make edits to it and sort of see what is happening. One of my favorite things about Revit is that it does do these roofs for you. So I'm going to undefine those, and then I'm going to undefine this one, and we're going to see what's going to happen. So it's bringing up this entire roof. Here, again, it automatically set it to 6. I'm going to bring it back down. I mean, automatically set to 9. I'm going to bring that back down. So we're going to have issues with this roof here. I'm most likely going to change it just because this isn't a good situation. Just in terms of like roofs, you don't want to create a valley here because snow, if you live in a state that snows, is just going to pile up. There's nowhere for the snow to go. So this is like a lot of the things that I'll run into when I am bringing a 2D floor plan Emily's thought about to life, just because she is a 2D thinker, and that's totally perfectly fine. I don't even really like designing floor plans too much, so I'm really happy that she does. I love doing what we're doing now, bringing it to life in 3D, designing the exterior, really looking at these things. Like, is the roof plausible? Is that a good piece of construction? You know, where is the top plate going to be? What is the exterior going to look like? How is the massing going to look like? What are the windows going to look like? What's the material going to be? So those are all my favorite things, which is why we have a really good system, because we balance each other out really well. But again, like I said, we will run into these problems where it has not been thought out in 2D yet, even though it's been sketched. So we will have to solve this. I am going to leave it for now because we're not there yet, but we will have to go in and resolve that at some point. Again, I'm just going to hide our actual roofs and just look again. Yeah, so this is sloping, and then this is, maybe they're not, you know, maybe she's not thinking they're at the same height, probably because this is a double height space for the living room. So if we go to the first floor plan, we have this great grand living space. If we go to the second floor, it's X'd out because it's open to below. So this is just like a double height space, and the roof is probably lower. So if we go into our elevation, I'm going to go to this elevation, and I'm going to look at this roof. And I do have some notes and some lines drawn, and it's just because I usually keep typical notes from past projects in the file, but I'm just going to delete those right now. So I filtered and selected all of those things, and then I just deleted them very quickly. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to create a top plate for this roof, and I'm literally going to call it living room top plate. I'm going to do top plate living room. And this is going to be its own top plate. So this project is going to have a lot of roof variation heights, which means we're going to have a lot of different top plate levels, because again, the roof sits on the top plate. And we'll look at that in section, and I'll show you exactly what the top plate is in 2D and how the rafters and the roof sits into the top plate. Because when I first started, I didn't know what a top plate was. I didn't know what a rafter was. I didn't know any of these terms, which is why when I go through Revit Foundations and I teach people Revit, I'm also teaching them basic construction terms, because in order to create an accurate 3D Revit model, you kind of got to know what these things are called. And it's just basic wood frame construction, basic terminology. But it wasn't basic enough that my school taught it to me, which is just mind-blowing to me, because I actually did go to an accredited college. A lot of people have been commenting on a reel that's gone viral recently, and they're like, you mustn't have gone to an accredited college. Like, you mustn't have if you didn't learn these things. It's like, no, I actually did end up going to, like, one of the top architecture schools. It just didn't end up teaching me the basic things like Revit or wood construction. I think they have recently changed their curriculum to include some of these things. I'm not sure if they're teaching Revit, but I did see recently on their Instagram page that they are starting to teach kids framing. So I'm assuming that they're learning wood construction terms, which is a huge win for students at this school, because not knowing some of these terms is uncomfortable when you go to practice and your boss is pointing around at things on the screen and you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what the terms mean, which was my experience, and it kind of sucked. So we're gonna have the garage slab. This is our first floor slab. We have our second floor slab, but this is our living room volume space. So I'm just trying to decide like what I want that ceiling to be. I feel like 14 feet might be a little too high. We probably need to do like 10.6. Maybe I'll just do 12.6. Give it some volume. Maybe we could put some like windows. You know, there's not gonna be a floor here. It's gonna be double height. So that's good for now. I'm gonna go back to the 3D view, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach this wall to this roof. And it's so smart in the fact that it only attached the portion of the wall underneath that roof to the roof. Cleaned it up beautifully for me. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna attach this to this roof. So you'll see in a second what that does. So it just brought that wall all the way up for me and cleaned that up really nicely. So this wall is stacked on top of each other. In order to get rid of this line, I'm just gonna take this wall and I'm gonna take this one, I'm gonna join them. So there's a little join geometry tool up here. I swear, all of Revit's best, most useful tools, some of them don't even have short commands, which are keyboard commands. You can quickly type in and access a tool. And they all are like the smallest icons, which I don't know who decides the size, but some of the best icons, the best tools are like the smallest icons. So again, I'm just going in, attaching that wall. So I am going to bring this back over. I just moved it. I moved it in 3D and it's snapping to the face of this wall. Sometimes I will model things in 3D because I've been doing it so long that I just know where I'm snapping, but it's not great practice to do that. So I'm going to go back to floor plan. All right, so now we have this fully covering this space. We have this 1 foot overhang above, and we're gonna have to change this roof just because, again, even though now there's like a wall here, it will still be collecting snow up against this wall. So what we're gonna want to do is change the roof here. We can get into that at a different time because we are running out of time today. I am hitting spacebar just to flip all my exterior walls so that the exterior material is on the outside. I'm going to go in, I'm going to join these walls that we have stacked on top of each other. And I'm going to go into the elevation and I'm going to create, so this is again the main floor top plate. So this is the third floor, and then there will be a separate level for the top plate of these roofs. I just haven't created it yet. So I'm going to go in here and call this top plate roof. Then there'll be a top plate second floor that will come in here for these roofs here, but I'm just going to leave it for now. So top plate roof, and then we're going to place our roof here. So I'm going to go to the third floor plan, and then I'm going to go to the top plate roof plan, and I'm going to turn on the underlay for the third floor, and then I'm going to draw in a roof at this level. I'm going to pick the green line so I can just quickly select the exterior of these walls. And then once I've done that, I'm going to quickly offset, which is OF. I'm going to make that 11 1/2. I'm going to uncheck copy because I want the whole thing to just happen. So I just hit tab. If I hover over it, it's only selecting one line. If I hit tab, it's now selecting a chain of lines, so all the lines that are connected, which is perfect because now in one click, I can offset all of those lines the same distance, which is 11.5 inches, to account for the inch we have of finished wall in our wall system that we can't see right now, so that it is 1 full foot from the edge of the roof to the face of our stud. So now we go to 3D. We can see we have a pretty good structure modeled, some massing figured out, and I assigned a roof slope to all of these, and it automatically created this geometry for me, which is just amazing. I mean, roofs are one of those things that I really hate, and if I wasn't using Revit, I probably would struggle a lot more with a roof like this. Figuring out like how this fits in, it would be really hard for me. It just would be. Roofs are confusing, and I don't love them. The only reason I'm able to do them and design them so well is because I can literally select the slope, select which line is defined, and see what happens when Revit generates it. So if I go to the self elevation, you're going to see the top plate roof. I went to that floor plan. I draw the roof in at that floor plan. The base level is set to top plate roof. So it's at the correct level. When we look at it in section, this probably will come down a little bit, which you will see next time. We'll take a section and we'll talk about the top plate specifically. But for right now, these are just drawn in at the levels. What will end up happening is it will get lower. The roof will actually come down and be a little bit below this line because the top plate on the inside will be at that correct level. So it'll come up here, we'll say base level's top roof plate, and it'll be negative 7 inches from that level. But that's just how I set it up, and that's just how I do it, and that's the best practice for it. So until I take a section and figure out exactly where the roof needs to sit, I'm just going to leave it at the top plate roof level, like flush with it right now. I see people make the mistake all the time where they create the top plate roof and they draw the roof at that level and then they leave it there, and it's like, no, if you actually go to a section, it's not correct. So if I go to this section really quick, you'll see that this is the rafter, this is the top of the wall if I were to attach it really quickly, and this is the top plate. So I just want to give this example. We won't get super into it, but I don't want you to have to wait till next week to know what I'm talking about. So I just took a detail component, which is a 2D element, and I'm just placing this in to represent my top plate. This is exactly how I do it. I'm not doing it anything special for this live. Like, this is exactly how I do it in real life for my own projects. Because literally this is like my own project, right? So now I move these down. The top plate is always two 2x6s being cut. They're run horizontally around the perimeter of the house. There's 2 of them, and the top of them is the top plate level. So we drew our roof, and it always assigns like the edge bottom of the roof to that level, so it's flush with it. Great. We know that that's not actually where the top plate is, so we're going to lower the roof. It's great that the base level is still associated with the top plate. We're just going to have some kind of negative offset, and we're going to figure out what that is by literally just taking this point. So what I'll do to grab that point is I'll draw in a design line, which is a 2D line, which is DL. And I will click on the roof, and I will hit MV, and I will pick up on this intersection point, and I will lower the roof to hit this intersection point. So the rafter hits the corner of the top plate just like this, and typically it gets cut out around it. You know, I'd have to clean it up in Revit right now because it's doing this, but this is exactly where the roof needs to be for the rafter to hit the top plate at the top plate elevation that we've set. So now we can go in and we can see, okay, the base level is the top plate roof. That's where we started. And now the base offset from that is we've moved the roof down -1 foot and 1/8. So where this roof is placed in Revit, this number here, you're never going to see that in a drawing. It's not part of the construction drawings. This is a model number where you've had to place the roof. What they build off of is this top plate level marker. The top plate is very, very important in your projects for builders to build off of. So again, we drew the roof on the top plate floor plan. We took a section. We placed our top plate pieces on the line right under it. And then we took our roof and we moved it down so that this was hitting the angle in the corner exactly. And now we have our proper roof construction hitting our top plate properly. And we know that this roof is now placed in the right spot, in the right elevation. All the other ones we'll have to adjust as well, but that one was done, so I wanted to do that one first. So we can see that this roof is hitting a little bit. So what I would do here, we could either raise this roof or we could lower the pitch of this one. I think anything less than a 6 looks a little bit squat, a little bit too squat. So I will go into this elevation and I am going to just raise this to be a little bit higher. And now the great thing about this is we know that our section is correct. We know that our roof is set at the appropriate spot so that our top plate is going to hit it correctly. So even if we move this and we make this 9 feet, we go back to section, it's moved, like the roof and how it sits with the top plate is still the same. The 2D elements, these elements right here, they didn't move with it because they are 2D, they're not 3D. But when I move them up, this situation, this scenario has stayed consistent even though I moved this level up. Because the roof is associated with this level, so whenever I make a change, it's going to go with the level changes, which is why it's so important to have your levels set up, even if you don't know exactly what you want your measurements to be. Because once you have things associated to specific levels, you can then go back later and change them like we just did, and everything goes with it, stays associated with it, and it's so helpful. So helpful. So we raised that up, and now we have this roof not hitting, and that works out really well. It is a little bit close, but they probably could get in there and put like a piece of trim in the real world when they're building it. So I'm not too concerned. Again, this roof isn't really going to work. We're going to dump snow here, but I'm going to leave it for now and we can think about it for next time. But now we have the general massing of our building complete, which is awesome. So we have this roof, we have all these roofs, 3 different top plates for the roofs, which we will again finish again next time. But I'm going to attach this wall here, and then we're going to go in and we're going to take a little picture of our finished model. Alright, so this was finishing the massing, volume of the space of the project. This roof is a 9 and all the other ones are at a 6, and I'm gonna keep it like that for now, the main roof is a 9, because if we put it at a 6, I think it's gonna look, yeah. I want this one, the main roof at the top, to have a little bit more definition and prominence to it, because it is the main highest point of the building. And I'm gonna leave these ones at 6 for now, like I said. Well, we have the massing done. We have all the exterior walls where they need to be. We have our roofs in, even if they aren't 100% yet. And we have a general idea of what this is going to look like. So next week, we will be focusing on finalizing the heights of some of these roofs, figuring out what we're doing with this back roof over here, maybe adding in some of these porch details, because there's going to be roofs over the porches as well that we got to add in. And once we finalize all that stuff, we'll start going into adding the windows. And once we do that, then we'll be able to really start breaking up the facade into different materials, because right now it's just horizontal siding, which is super boring and super gross, especially on a luxury mansion like this is going to be. So don't dive too deep into the fact that this is just horizontal siding. That's just the basic default setting for the exterior finish right now. And once we start developing the exterior, we're going to really I'm going to bring up some Pinterest pictures of what I'm thinking for the exterior and use it for inspiration. And I like to look at inspiration pictures and then have an idea of what I want to create and then go into Revit, know the tools that I have to use to my advantage, and work Revit. I don't ever let Revit work me. And what that means is I'm not going to go in and try and design like the entire facade just with the basic tools. I'm going to look at something, I'm going to sketch something, I'm going to have an idea of what I want the facade to really look like. And then I'm going to go into Revit and say, what tools do I have available to me to bring this to life? So I always go into Revit with an idea of what I want something to look like. I'm not just like, what can I create? Because you will just get this basic box. So don't let Revit determine your design. Go into Revit with a design planned, an idea of what you want to create, and then figure out, okay, how can I create this cool thing I want to do with the tools available to me with Revit? So we'll get into that as we get deeper and deeper into this project. Obviously right now we're in the very beginning stages of laying out the massing and setting up the levels and just making sure everything is correct. This actually is really a 4-story house. There is a finished basement here. I have not been advertising that or talking about it at all, but we will get to it. I just feel like a lot of the above ground stuff is probably key right now. So we're focusing on that at this point. Alrighty. So this was so fun. I love doing the roofs. I love seeing what's going on here. I love that we have our massing all figured out. And I will see you guys next week when we continue on with this project. This is like my favorite thing I've ever done. My favorite series ever. And I will see you guys next week at 7 p.m. Same time, same places, and you can watch the replay, the screenplay, and you can see my face on the webcam via the YouTube replays, which I recommend watching, and I recommend following along with what I'm doing for your own practice and your own fun. You know, maybe you follow along and you're like, I don't really like this. I'm going to change this. Make it your own. You don't like the materials I design, you don't like the window placement, make it your own, right? But you can follow along, and if you do, post it to your story or send it to me on Instagram in a DM. I would love to see your work, your interpretation, your design, and how you look at this project. Alrighty, so that's it. See you next week.